Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. So another fluid art creation using just 4 colours. And I'm going to be honest, I did a creation recently and I tipped quite a lot of paint onto my table. And I think a lot of people worry that that paint just gets disregarded and thrown away, but it really doesn't. I scoop up all the paint and it either creates a flow extender or another colour. So the colour that I'm going to use for my base are literally going to be the colours that I've scraped off my table on a previous creation. And I would say it's probably more of like a brownie colour. It's a mixture of black, red, yellow and orange. And that's going to be my colour palette today. So I'm using a red, an orange and a yellow over the top of this base colour. I'm going to take you in shortly so you can see the colours themselves. I'll also list all the colours and the brands in the description box. And I'm going to use my split cup. So I'm really excited. It's going to be similar to these paintings that you can see, but not exactly that you can see behind me. It's going to be something different. So thank you so much for joining me. And as always, let's see what we can create. So I'm using a 20" by 20" canvas, deep edge. I've not painted my sides. So this time, this is the colour palette. The red, the yellow and the orange. Let me just see if I can show you the consistency. Just goes off the palette knife into the paint and disappears. And that's the same for each of the colours. Off the palette knife and then just disappears. I'll put my ratios in the description, but these are 1 part paint, 1 part water, 3 parts pouring medium. Now this is the colour, I don't know if you can really see this properly, but this is the colour that I've scraped off my table. It's not black. It's a mixture of all these colours, so it's more of a brown. So that's going to be my base colour. So I'm going to use that for the base, and then I'm going to use my split cup for these colours. Let's go. So as you can see, I've got my silicone cup, and it's got 3 different compartments. And I said I was going to put the orange, the yellow, and the red, one by one, in each of those compartments. So I'm just going to fill up my cup, and then we'll continue with the process. So that's my cup filled with the paint, and I'm not filling it right to the top. I want a little bit more control on how that paint comes out. So I'm sure I'll be going back again to fill it up. So this cup here is all that paint that I scraped off my table on a previous creation. And I've decided to use that colour not as a flow extender, but I'm just using it as my base colour for this one. It's not completely black, but it is that browny kind of muddy colour. So a brown tone, which I think will go really perfect with that orange, yellow and red. So I'm just placing some of that colour onto the base of my canvas, and I'm just tilting it out so it covers some of that surface area. So now I'm going to take my cup, and I'm just going to gently pour the cup and allow that paint to escape from the cup and go onto the surface of the canvas, just over that brown colour. And I'm just going slowly, I'm doing some swirls, and I'm just going all the way around, but not rushing the process. I'm really watching how that paint comes out of the cup. I'm coming to the end of the paint that I already placed within that split cup, just going over some of those lines again, just so it adds a little bit more detail. And then what I'll do is I will take my cup and I will refill it with that red, that orange and that yellow, just so I can add some more paint to the canvas. The reason I didn't fully cover the surface area of the canvas with the brown colour is because when I add paint from my split cup, that's adding to the volume of paint that you see on the canvas itself. So once I've added some more paint, I'm going to have enough volume of paint on that canvas to help it really stretch out. So there was no need for me to really cover that full surface area before I began with this part of the process. Again, it's just limiting paint wastage, but I also want good control when I tilt the paint out. I don't want too much paint, because sometimes if you have too much, then I feel that I can't control how that pattern's going to turn out. Whereas if I have a little paint, I can always add more to the creation as I go. So the cup has been refilled, and again I'm just going to slowly tip the paint out from the cup. And I think where that paint, where I started off with this cup, where it meets the edge of that brown, I will just add a little bit more of the base colour around that part of the paint, so it helps when I stretch it out. But again, I'm just doing swirls, just going around the canvas. It's actually quite relaxing when I do it. I really do get caught up in that moment of the here and now. I think it's really important to be immersed in your creation process and not really worry too much about that end result. Just enjoy being in that moment of now, seeing how that paint leaves the cup, how it starts spreading out on the canvas, and how it feels to you when you finish and you pop your air bubbles with your torch, and then you start kind of tilting the canvas out and seeing how that paint goes. I think it's really important just to enjoy that present moment. So if you're enjoying the video, all I ask is please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and maybe just drop me a comment down below and let me know what you think about how this is going. And more importantly, if you're enjoying it and if you're going to try this as well. I'd love to know if you're going to try something similar. And remember, when you share your stuff online, please feel free to tag me. I'd love to see what you create. So now we're going to stretch the canvas out. So I'm going to tip up the canvas, tip up the paint, and move that paint slowly from one side to another, watching how those lines, those swirls of that red, that orange and that yellow start to open out. And my intention here is about getting that balance of negative space, so that brown colour underneath, balanced with the swirls of colour of the red, the orange and yellow on top. So this part of the process is really about expanding that paint coverage from the full surface area down the sides and down the edges, but really looking at the composition, looking at how your pattern is evolving, how it's stretching out and how it's opening up. And don't forget to sometimes place your canvas down on its stands or on its table, step back and have a look. Take a breather, just see how it's evolving, and don't be in that rush to complete the process. I'm so happy with how this is turning out. I really feel like I've got that balance right with the dark background and then the swirls of colour on top. Let me take you in now for a closer look at the wet version. I'll take you in so you can see some of those details, so you can see how some of those lines have really opened up against that darker background, and how some of those lines really interlink with each other. It looks like some of the lines go under some of the lines on top, and that's really my aim for this piece, almost making it look 3D. I'm going to let this dry and then I'll take you in for a closer look at the dry version. So here's the dry version. Not really much change from the wet version. I do find that these colours that I work with dry almost very similar to when they're wet. I would say really it's the blues and the violets that really change colour from the wet version to the dry version. So if you're going to try different colour palettes, just think about how those colours will dry. Think about how they look so vibrant when they're wet, and sometimes they go a bit more dull when they dry. But you can always add in a little bit of gloss varnish into your pouring medium to make sure that it continues to shine. But with all my creations, I do a gloss varnish afterwards. I use a spray varnish by Winsor & Newton, and that will bring that vibrancy of colour back. I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting me and for watching today, and I really hope I get to see you again in the next video. Have a great week everyone, and I'll see you soon. Bye!